I knew something was off the moment I heard her laugh. Not the everyday laugh, the one she uses when she's actually amused, but that polished, fake one she reserves for strangers she's trying to impress. It floated down the hallway from the laundry room, brittle and hollow, like a champagne flute with a hairline crack. "You're lucky I even let you touch me," she said. Just like that. Like she was doing me a favor. Like 20 years of paying the bills, fixing the leaky faucets, smoothing over her messes, and pretending her credit card statements were normal was all just some charity program she'd signed up for. She tossed her blouse into the dryer, humming like we hadn't just taken a sledgehammer to the foundation of our marriage. I didn't say a word. I didn't even feel anger. Not yet. What I felt was quieter, sharper. The kind of feeling you get when you're about to solve a puzzle you've been staring at for months. On the folding table, I picked up the last t-shirt from the pile, an old one from the state fair, back before she had veneers, before she stopped asking how my day was, before a Pilates instructor with a name like a rejected Bond villain became her new hobby. I folded that shirt more carefully than I'd touched her in years, set it on the stack, and walked out. Her phone buzzed in the hallway. Then a giggle. Then another buzz. Whoever she was texting, they were good at their craft. I'd noticed lately how her voice got younger when she typed to him. Almost girlish. Almost the way she used to sound with me. The hall mirror caught me mid-stride. Wrinkled? Sure. Slower than I used to be? Maybe. But I also built machines that cut titanium to half a human hair's width. I led a team of 20 men who didn't dare miss a measurement. I wasn't some sad creature living off scraps of attention. In this house, maybe I was a placeholder. And placeholders don't argue, they execute. Down in my office, the oak box sat in its drawer. Smooth edges, brass hinges, empty for now. I had carved it myself years ago, back when I still thought anniversaries meant something. It wasn't going to stay empty much longer. I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled simply, June Justice. Inside were neatly organized files, emails from her realtor friend, Celeste, about fun weekends that overlapped perfectly with her so-called work trips, rental car receipts with a second driver who wasn't me, text threads synced from her phone to the family iPad months ago without her noticing. She thought I was slow. She joked about it in front of friends once, said I moved like I was buffering. They laughed. I smiled. Slowness isn't weakness. It's precision. I took a deep breath and started compiling everything into chronological order. Betrayal, in my experience, is a lot easier to dismantle when it's properly filed. Because men like me don't need second chances. We need evidence. That night, she came downstairs in that smug little silk robe, her affectionate wife costume. Makeup off, hair tied back, smelling faintly of whatever overpriced lotion Instagram told her was essential this month. "You didn't say good night," she said, tilting her head like she was talking to a misbehaving Labrador. "I figured you were tired of touching me," I replied, smiling. The blink was quick, but I caught it. That little hitch in her expression, like she'd just tripped over an invisible step. Then she recovered. "You're being dramatic." I nodded slowly. "The way you do when you want someone to think you've accepted defeat." "Men like me," I said, "don't do drama. We do documentation." She laughed, that short, nervous laugh that always means you've noticed more than I thought. Then she padded back upstairs. When the house fell quiet, I opened the iPad again. She'd been careful lately. No photos, fewer texts. But careful people forget the past can be more dangerous than the present. I scrolled back 3 months and found the thread I remembered. Her. I needed that last night. Him. Lunch before you head home. Timestamp. 1:42 p.m. That day, she'd told me she was stuck in a board meeting. The him in question was a contractor we once hired to fix our deck. Nice guy. I'd even given him a beer while he worked. He'd thank me like a son, his words. I took a screenshot, saved it to June Justice, then encrypted the entire folder and copied it to 3 locations. One flash drive in the safe, one on a private cloud account, one inside an encrypted partition disguised as a tax file. Precision. Always precision. The next morning, she was chirpy, humming, pouring coffee like nothing had shifted in the tectonic plates beneath our marriage. I kissed her cheek and told her I might be working late. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Oh yeah," I said. "Some things just need time to set." Her smile faltered for half a second. Because even before I had the full plan, I knew one thing. Vanessa was walking straight into a trap. She just didn't realize I'd started building it before she ever stepped out on me. 2 days later, I gave her exactly what she'd been craving for months: freedom. Or at least, the illusion of it. I've got a last-minute client meeting in Ridge Hill, I told her over breakfast, casually flipping through the paper like I didn't care if she even heard me. Won't be back till late. Oh, she said, just a little too bright. Well, I might go out too. Dinner with Celeste. Of course you will, I thought. And of course it'll be Celeste, the human alibi factory. I just smiled and said, have fun. I left the driveway at exactly 9:02 a.m., made a show of turning toward the freeway, then looped back 3 blocks over and parked behind an abandoned dry cleaner with a clear line of sight to our street. By 11:16 a.m., she emerged, hair done, heels clicking, that effortlessly casual outfit that's anything but. She got into her beige Range Rover, phone to her ear, laughing at something. Probably not Celeste. I followed at a comfortable distance, no rush. She took the scenic route, but eventually, just as I'd guessed, she pulled into the parking lot of the Burstone Hotel. The same one from the contractor texts. The one that smells like lavender and desperation. I didn't follow her in. That would have been too easy, too obvious. Instead, I pulled into the gas station across the street, bought a coffee I didn't need, and waited. 42 minutes later, a familiar figure walked into the hotel lobby, my deck contractor, in a blue button-down I'd seen him wear to our backyard barbecue. Perfect. By 2:03 p.m., she was back in the Rover, hair a little mussed, smile plastered on. She drove home like she was late for something important, probably washing the scent of him off before I got home from Ridge Hill. I didn't confront her. Didn't even hint I knew. Instead, that evening, I handed her a small, unexpected gift, a delicate gold bracelet. What's this for? She asked, blinking. Just because, I said. You've been working so hard. Thought you deserved something nice. She melted. Oh, she loved gifts, especially when she thought they were spontaneous. She slipped it on, kissed my cheek, and called me sweet. What she didn't know, the bracelet contained a micro-tracking chip, accurate to within 5 meters, with a 72-hour battery. I wanted to know where she went when she thought I was nowhere near. That night, I lay in bed beside her, listening to her breathing slow, my phone quietly pinging as the tracker calibrated itself. She was dreaming about being clever. I was dreaming about the day she'd realize she wasn't. It took less than 24 hours for the bracelet to start talking. She wore it to bed, probably because she wanted me to notice it in the morning light and think about how much she appreciated me. Over coffee, she twirled it around her wrist and said, "You really surprised me last night." "Guess I've still got a few tricks left," I said, smiling into my mug. By 8:17 a.m., she was out the door, Range Rover purring down the driveway. The tracker pinged from her office for the first 2 hours. Routine. Predictable. Then, at 10:43, the signal shifted, north, not toward any client property I knew of. She stopped at a small cafe downtown. 15 minutes later, the signal merged with another tracker I'd planted weeks ago, not on her, but on the deck contractor's truck. He didn't know about that one either. 2 dots, side by side, at Cafe Amore. Cute. I imagined her laughing across the table, sipping a latte she'd tell me later she drank alone while catching up on emails. I imagined him leaning in, grinning, probably feeling like he'd stolen something valuable. I wondered if he realized he was just holding the counterfeit version of me, a cheap imitation of the real thing she once thought was irreplaceable. By 11:36, the dots moved again, this time to a boutique hotel I'd never seen her visit. Not the Burstone. Interesting. I called an old friend, Simon, a PI who owed me more than a few favors. Gave him the address, told him to park discreetly. Within 20 minutes, I had 3 photos on my phone. Vanessa and the contractor walking into the lobby. Vanessa laughing with her head back like she'd just been crowned prom queen, his hand brushing her lower back. I saved the images in June Justice. At 1:12, she left. Tracker back to the office. Contractor's truck headed in the opposite direction. When she got home that night, she kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. Long day, she sighed, tossing her purse onto the couch. Mine too, I said, handing her a glass of wine. What's Celeste up to these days? She didn't even flinch. Oh, she's good. We had lunch. I nodded. Nice. Tell her I said hi. The bracelet gleamed under the kitchen lights. I almost thanked her for wearing it. The next morning, the pattern repeated: office, cafe, boutique hotel. This time I didn't bother sending Simon. I had what I needed. Instead, I began stage 2, building her comfort. Cheaters get sloppy when they think you've stopped paying attention. So I started working late, taking up hobbies, letting her have more nights to herself. I cooked her favorite dinners. I bought her flowers for no reason. She started smiling at me again, not because she loved me, but because she thought I was harmless. The tracker told a different story. Twice a week, she met him. Once, she drove 2 towns over to a furniture store and spent 2 hours there. A quick call to the store manager, posing as her assistant, confirmed she'd purchased a queen-size bed frame. Delivery address? His apartment. By the end of week 2, I had a full schedule mapped out. Tuesdays, boutique hotel, 2 hours. Fridays, contractor's apartment. Random day, cafe meetup. Patterns. Predictable, comfortable patterns. And patterns can be weaponized. It was Friday evening when she made her first mistake. I was in the garage, fixing the lawn mower, really just clearing space in my workbench drawer for the flash drives, when she came in wearing jeans and a fitted top I hadn't seen in years. Going out? I asked without looking up. Yeah, Celeste had a rough week. Girls' night. I let out a soft laugh, still fiddling with the mower. She must really like boutique hotels. Silence. Long enough for me to hear the garage clock tick twice. What's that supposed to mean? She said, voice just a touch too sharp. I shrugged. Nothing. Just funny how you two always end up in the same places. Her eyes narrowed. She started to say something, stopped, and instead plastered on that fake smile. You're imagining things. Maybe, I said, handing her the car keys. Have fun. She left, but the way she gripped the steering wheel as she backed out told me the bracelet had just gotten heavier on her wrist. The following week, I initiated stage 3, financial repositioning. I met with my accountant and quietly moved half our joint liquid assets into a trust under my name only. I rerouted my paychecks into a separate account she couldn't touch. The utilities, mortgage, and insurance shifted to auto pay from my personal account, ensuring no accidental lapses if she decided to get vindictive later. Meanwhile, I started planting seeds with people she trusted. Casual conversations with her mother, her sister, even Celeste, always harmless sounding, always ending with some variation of, I just hope she's being careful. You know how rumors start. Rumors are like mold. Once they take root, you can't stop them from spreading. On a Thursday afternoon, Simon called. You're gonna like this, he said. He'd been tailing her after I asked him to grab one last set of high-quality shots for the file. Turns out, she and the contractor weren't just meeting at the boutique hotel anymore. They'd started shopping for a vacation package. Caribbean. 2 tickets. Departure date in 6 weeks. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there for a long moment in the office, the oak box open in front of me. Inside, the flash drive gleamed like a loaded bullet. She was escalating. Perfect. That meant she was getting sloppy. That Saturday, I gave her exactly what she didn't know she wanted, an opportunity. Hey, I said over breakfast. I've got a conference in Denver next month. 3 days. You should take some time for yourself while I'm gone. Her eyes lit up, but she masked it with a sip of coffee. Maybe I will. I leaned back in my chair. You deserve it. She smiled. That smile told me she'd just connected my absence with her secret trip. She'd think it was fate, maybe even divine permission. I'd be in Denver, sure, but my lawyer wouldn't. Neither would the process server. And neither would the surprise waiting for her at the airport when she tried to board that plane with her contractor. Because by then, June Justice wouldn't just be a folder on my laptop. It would be a missile, loaded, aimed, and locked on target. And Vanessa? She wouldn't even see the launch. The morning of my conference in Denver started like any other travel day in our house. Her pretending to be supportive, me pretending not to notice she was mentally halfway to her own getaway. She stood in the kitchen in her robe, sipping coffee. Flights at what time again? She asked, too casual. 8:15, I said, zipping up my suitcase. I'll be at the hotel by noon, then 3 days of meetings. She nodded, lips pressed together to hide the fact she'd already calculated how many hours she'd have without me. I'll miss you. I gave her my best warm husband smile. I'll miss you too. The bracelet was on her wrist, same as always. The tracker had been sending me a steady heartbeat of pings all week. I already knew her flight to the Caribbean was set to leave just 24 hours after mine. The contractor would be flying in from another city. My PI, Simon, had the itineraries. The pieces were in place. By 6:45 a.m., I was in my car headed toward the airport. At 7:20, I parked not in long-term parking, but in the covered garage of a hotel 5 miles from the terminal. My suitcase stayed in the trunk. My flight was just a boarding pass I'd booked and canceled in the same transaction. The gate agent in Denver would never miss me. I grabbed the overnight bag that actually mattered, laptop, documents, flash drives, 2 changes of clothes, and headed upstairs to a reserved suite. Simon was already there, sipping burnt lobby coffee. "You're early," he said. "I'm motivated," I replied, setting my bag down. "What V you got for me?" He handed me a manila envelope. Inside, high-resolution shots of her and the contractor at the travel agency, at dinner, walking hand in hand in the park like they were auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. A copy of the travel itinerary, screenshots of texts, even a short video clip of them kissing outside his apartment. I slid it all into the oak box. My box of evidence was now heavy, figuratively and literally. The next 24 hours were about patience. I stayed in that suite, tracking the little blinking dot on my phone as she went about her day. Morning, salon. Afternoon, shopping, really picking up luggage. Evening, dinner with Celeste again, at a bistro where Simon was conveniently seated 2 tables away. She came home by 10, bracelet still pinging, her step light and self-satisfied. She thought she was winning. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. "Simon." "She's at the airport," he said. Bracelet signal matches her check-in time. Contractors due to land in 20 minutes. I dressed quickly, pulling on the kind of outfit you'd wear for a low-key business meeting. Navy blazer, no tie. I didn't want to look like a jealous husband. I wanted to look like someone on official business. Because that's exactly what this was. The airport was its usual chaos, rolling suitcases, bad coffee smells, overhead announcements nobody listens to. I spotted her at the departure gate, hair perfectly styled, wearing a sundress I'd last seen 5 years ago on our anniversary trip to Maui. She was scanning the crowd for him, phone in hand. I didn't approach. Instead, I positioned myself where she couldn't miss me once the moment came. And then he arrived. Contractor boy, wearing a tropical shirt that made him look like an extra from a low-budget island movie. They hugged, too long for friends, too familiar for business. That's when the process server walked up, manila envelope in hand. "Vanessa," he said clearly, "you've been served." The look on her face, that flicker of confusion collapsing into dawning horror, was the single most satisfying frame of film I've ever witnessed. She didn't even take the envelope at first. The server had to press it into her hand. The contractor stepped back like the papers might be contagious. Inside that envelope was everything. The divorce petition, the prenuptial enforcement clause she'd forgotten existed, copies of the evidence, emails, photos, texts, and a demand for immediate spousal property separation, citing marital misconduct. She turned toward me then, scanning the crowd until our eyes locked. "You planned this," she hissed, storming toward me. I smiled, calm as ever. "I told you. Men like me don't need second chances. We need evidence." "You." She stopped herself, realizing the audience she was gathering. People nearby were pretending not to listen, which meant they were absolutely listening. The contractor looked between us, clearly realizing he'd just stepped into the deep end of a pool with no ladder. "You think this is going to scare me?" she spat. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "No, Vanessa. This isn't to scare you. This is to make sure when you walk away, you're carrying nothing but that cheap bracelet and your boyfriend's bad taste in shirts." Her nostrils flared. She opened her mouth, closed it, then spun on her heel and stalked back toward the gate. I watched her sit there, envelope in her lap, contractor whispering frantically. And then I turned and walked away. Back at the hotel suite, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared drive I'd set up with my lawyer. Every file from June Justice was now backed up in his secure cloud. The moment she tried to contest anything, he could drop it in front of a judge like a hammer. By mid-afternoon, I was on the phone with the bank, executing the final step, freezing all joint accounts. Her credit cards, tied to those accounts, would decline within the hour. The prenup gave me the right to lock financial movement in cases of proven infidelity. The photos and text were proof enough. That night, Simon and I had dinner at a steakhouse near the hotel. Halfway through my bourbon, I got the text I'd been waiting for. "Vanessa, I can't believe you'd humiliate me like that. You'll regret it." I set the phone down, smiled to myself, and cut into my steak. No, I said quietly. I won't. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt lighter. The beauty of precision isn't just in execution, it's in the quiet afterward. When you've pulled every thread, moved every piece, and there's nothing left for them to grab onto. She thought she'd outmaneuver me. She didn't realize I'd been 3 moves ahead since the first fake laugh in the laundry room. Her trip was ruined. Her access to money, gone. Her reputation, about to take a hit once the right people saw what was in that envelope. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice. By Sunday morning, she was back in town. The tracker pinged from her sister's house. She didn't come home. Good. The house felt cleaner without her in it. The Denver trip wasn't about running away. It was about being close enough to watch the first domino fall. And as I packed up the oak box for the last time, sliding it into the safe, I knew exactly what part 2 of her education would be. Vanessa had spent years believing she was the smartest person in the room. Now, she'd learned the most dangerous person in the room is the one who stops playing the game by her rules. And I was just getting started by Monday morning. My phone was a carnival of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Her lawyer, her sister, even Celeste, who apparently thought I'd want to hear her version of what really happened. I didn't answer any of them. I just sat in my office with a mug of black coffee, scrolling through the latest batch of tracker data like I was reviewing weather patterns. Vanessa's little blinking that was parked at her sister's townhouse. It hadn't moved since Sunday night. She was hiding. Good. Let her stew. At 10:14 a.m., my lawyer, Howard, called. Unlike the rest of the peanut gallery, I picked up for him. She's upset, Howard said, in the same tone you'd used to tell someone the sky was blue. Upset because she got caught, or because she can't reach my accounts? Both, but mostly the accounts. Her lawyer's making noise about unreasonable financial hardship. I reminded him about the prenup and sent over the evidence package. I think that shut him up for now. I could almost hear Howard smiling through the line. She'll test you, he continued. Try to bait you into a reaction. Don't give her anything. Howard, I said, I'm not just not giving her anything. I'm taking something. By noon, my plan was in motion. I called our joint insurance provider and removed her as a beneficiary on my life policy. I called the dealership and had the Range Rover, technically in my name, scheduled for repossession. That one would be a slow burn pleasure. Then I went online and quietly began moving the title of our vacation cabin into my trust. Vanessa loved that cabin. It was her Instagram backdrop of choice, rustic enough to look authentic, modern enough to have heated floors. She'd posted pictures there with captions like #OurLittleRetreat. Well, now it was just my little retreat. At 3:47 p.m., the tracker pinged from the downtown law offices of Sanderson and Cole. I pictured her sitting across from some overpriced attorney, arms crossed, voice pitched high in righteous indignation. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, my phone lit up. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail. 10 seconds later, it rang again. I answered. You're a monster, she said without preamble. And you're on speakerphone in a law office, aren't you? I asked. A pause. Then, you're pathetic, trying to ruin me. No, I said, calm as a still pond. I'm simply correcting a paperwork error. You were listed as my wife. That's not accurate anymore. Her voice sharpened. Do you think anyone's going to take your side when they find out how cold you've been? You're making this ugly. I actually laughed. Vanessa, you brought ugly home months ago. I'm just making it official. Her lawyer tried to jump in then, introducing himself, attempting some conciliatory tone, but I cut him off. All communication goes through Howard. You have a good day now. Click. That night, Simon emailed me 3 new photos. Vanessa and the contractor having dinner at a mid-range Italian place. She looked exhausted. He looked like a man realizing the free ride came with potholes. I studied the images for a long moment before forwarding them to an email group I'd quietly curated over the past month. Her closest friends, a couple of colleagues, and, because life's too short for half measures, her mother. Subject line. Thought you all should know who Vanessa's been investing her time with. Attached, the photos. No commentary. No slander. Just truth, time-stamped and watermarked. I hit send and poured myself a whiskey. By Wednesday, the calls from mutual acquaintances started. Is it true? I can't believe she'd. We always wondered about those work trips. I didn't embellish. Didn't rant. Just confirmed what was true and let silence do the rest. Silence is a crueler weapon than shouting. It makes people fill the void with their own conclusions. That evening, the tracker that returned to our house for the first time since she'd left. I was in the kitchen when I heard the garage door. She walked in like she owned the place, except the keys in her hand wouldn't start the Rover anymore. She'd driven her sister's car. "You need to stop this," she said, dropping her bag on the counter. "You've made your point." I took a slow sip of coffee. "Vanessa, you don't even know what my point is yet." She crossed her arms. "You're humiliating yourself." I smiled. "If that's true, why do you look so nervous?" Her jaw clenched. She glanced around, probably realizing for the first time that framed photos were missing from the walls, certain knickknacks gone from the shelves. She didn't know I'd been moving things to the cabin, my cabin, for weeks. "I came for my jewelry," she said finally. "Check the safe." She did. The jewelry was there. So was a copy of the prenup and a USB drive labeled Truth. She turned to me, holding it up. "What's this?" "Your greatest hits," I said. "Keep it. Might help you remember how we got here." She slammed the safe, muttered something under her breath, and stormed out. Howard called the next morning. "Her lawyer wants to talk settlement. I think she's realized the optics are bad." "Good," I said. "But no half measures. She leaves with nothing but what she brought in. I want the language airtight." "She's not going to like that." "She doesn't have to." Friday afternoon, the Range Rover was picked up from her sister's driveway. Simon sent me a video of her standing in the street, arms waving, as the tow truck drove off. That same evening, I went to the cabin, built a fire, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving, sat there listening to the wood pop and crackle, the silence wrapping around me like a reward. By Sunday, word had gotten around. The contractor's business Facebook page had mysteriously gone unavailable, and Vanessa's Instagram, once a daily slideshow of her curated life, was suddenly private. The Queen had realized she was in check. But the game wasn't over. Because check is just a warning. And I had every intention of delivering checkmate. The thing about people like Vanessa is they don't quit until they've convinced themselves there's still a card in their hand. So, a week after the Range Rover was gone and her Instagram crown had slipped, she tried one last play. Howard called me. "She's threatening to go public. Claims she has emails proving you were unfaithful." I actually laughed. "Let her. It'll make the real evidence look even sharper." Sure enough, 2 days later, I got a text from a blocked number. "Meet me at Delaney's Cafe, tomorrow at noon. No lawyers." When I walked in, she was already there. Hair perfect, sunglasses on the table, a latte she hadn't touched. Across from her sat the contractor, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "You can end this," she said the second I sat down. We walk away, I get something to start over, and I keep quiet. "Quiet about what?" I asked, leaning back. "The boutique hotel? The Caribbean tickets? Or the fact that your boyfriend here took a small business loan last year using falsified documents?" The contractor's head snapped toward me. "What are you talking about?" I slid a folded paper across the table, printout from a public records search Simon had run. Loan application, inflated revenue figures, his signature. Not my problem, but now his. Vanessa went pale. "You wouldn't." I smiled. "Vanessa, I don't make threats. I make choices. You've got one right now. Sign the settlement, walk away clean, or watch the people around you start asking the wrong questions." She didn't sign that day, but she stopped bluffing. 2 weeks later, Howard called with the news. She's agreed. No contest. No alimony. You keep all assets. Only condition, mutual non-disparagement. I agreed, mostly because I didn't need to disparage her. She'd done that work herself. The court date was quick. She barely looked at me as the judge read the terms. The contractor wasn't there. Word was, he needed space. My guess? That loan detail hadn't gone away. Afterward, in the courthouse lobby, she approached me. "You win," she said flatly. I shook my head. "No, Vanessa. We both lost. I just made sure I could afford the loss." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, then turned and walked away, heels clicking against the marble until the sound faded. That was the last time I saw her in person. Life after her was still. The kind of quiet you don't realize you've been missing until it's there. No false laughs from the laundry room. No perfume masking lies. No carefully crafted alibis delivered over burnt coffee. I kept the cabin, the house, the business accounts. Sold the Range Rover for a tidy sum. Even replaced the oak box with a new one, Not for evidence this time, but for passports, spare keys, and a bottle of 18-year scotch I planned to open only when I felt I'd truly moved on. Simon stopped by one weekend. Never seen a cleaner takedown, he said. It wasn't about the takedown, I told him. It was about not letting her write the ending. 6 months later, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Vanessa, sitting at an outdoor cafe, hair unstyled, wearing a plain t-shirt. No makeup, no jewelry. Alone. On the back, in her handwriting, "You were right. About everything." I set it on the counter, poured myself a drink, and took it out to the porch. The sun was setting over the pines. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt done. She'd probably meant the note as some kind of olive branch, or maybe an admission she thought I craved. But the truth was, I didn't need her to say it. I'd already built a life where her validation didn't matter. That's the real revenge. Not the public embarrassment, not the clean legal kill, not even the assets. It's walking away knowing they have to live in the wreckage they built, while you're somewhere else entirely, hearing nothing but the sound of your own peace. And that's checkmate.